some of the briefings that I've read have suggested that a certain group of journalists were invited and others turned up. I'm not sure who's telling the truth in this one, but it just seems to me to be a little more confused and complicated than people are saying. My personal
But
view is, look, both
do you
sides
see a
need to step
trend?
back. Both sides need to step back, have a look at this and say, hold on a minute, is this what we really want? The Streatham terror attack at the weekend resulted in no government ministers really going out and doing broadcasts. I think that isn't a great thing. It's not a great situation to get yourself in when there is a terrorist attack in the country
So whose
and
fault's
you
that?
haven't. Whose fault is that? Well, I mean, look, obviously it's up to the government to decide whether or not they're going to put people up. I do think that there is a flip side to
People
this,
don't know what
which,
that phrase means.
well,
Put
if you want me
people
to
up.
finish, if you
No,
want
no,
me
no,
to
but sorry,
finish
I
the
have to
sentence,
interrupt
Emma,
because you're speaking in
why do
media
you have to
parlance.
interrupt?
Put
Okay,
people up means, sorry, put people up could mean all sorts of things outside of the world of journalism and
Emma,
politics.
Come on, it's pretty obvious. If you're saying put people up, it means put them for interview. But if you want to explain that and interrupt me to make that point, that's absolutely fine.
You
But
are a
look, all
former member of the BBC, and you have been around countless tables that I've been around to say, please explain phrases when you say them. But yes, do carry on.
Um, I'm sorry, this interview appears to be going in a very strange direction, Emma. I'm trying to explain to you that, look, this is a bit more complicated than you might think. And also, actually, as an impartial journalist who's trying to help people understand it, you might also explain that there is a different side to this in terms of why governments operate the way they do in terms of journalists. Is that too far or not? I'm simply trying to say to you, this is probably a more complicated situation than you are allowing it to or representing it as. And it's very easy to stand up and shout about defences of freedom and whatever, when actually I suspect what happened in Downing Street is slightly more
Did
complicated.
you hear
Am I
did you hear,
concerned as a,
could I just come in at this point? Did you hear my introduction
to me or to
to the
Peter
whole
Edwards?
item at
I
10:07?
didn't. No,
Okay.
no.
So perhaps go back and listen to that, and you will have heard my Downing Street side of this, the Downing Street putting forward their side of this. You will have heard Michael Gove. You will have heard those sides of this. So as an impartial journalist, yes, I have put forward that side of it. I have also put forward, and we will be hearing from a former member of the lobby coming
Look,
up very shortly. But my
with
question
respect,
to
Emma,
sorry, my
with
question,
respect,
could I ask you a question?
well,
Which
you
is,
could if you didn't actually give me a lecture before you did. I thought you were trying to
sorry,
interview
I
me,
was just
but
responding
okay.
to your lecture about my impartiality. But my question is this. My question is this. When you say there is no minister available or being put up to go for an interview at the weekend, which was a very serious news incident, as you rightly point out, whose fault is that? That's what I'm trying to understand. Is that the fault of a relationship that's broken down already between Number 10 and
It is a
journalists?
relationship that has broken down. And what I am trying to say is, look, what it is incumbent on everybody to do is probably take a breath, including you, by the way, and take a breath and stand back and have a look at this and say, look, how do we get to a situation where we're not spending acres of time on Radio 5 Live, navel gazing about journalists and talking to politicians and not on whatever, and actually addressing the issues that some of your audience are probably like slightly more interested in. That is means that it
Wow.
is incumbent on both sides, politicians and journalists, to take a breath, step back, say, look, how do we sort this out?
Wow, I'm breathing just fine, and we were very grateful for you to give us your time. And I'm sorry you feel it was navel gazing and is boring to our listeners who are texting in their droves. Sir Greg Oliver, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Bye bye.